Hello, everybody. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. So I adapted this game from a game against this gentleman, and I think the moves are the same until about the middle game, until the mid game. I had the white pieces, and let's widen our search settings just a bit here to include more lines. This helps you identify when a position is sharp. If you look in here, if it's white's turn to move and it was the top best move here, supposing that was plus 3.5, and then the next best move, plus 3.5, and then the next best move was minus 2.5, and worse on down, that means there's one move and one move only that is best for white, and that the position is very sharp. So I played e4, and after e5, knight f3. I'm going to put the review on while we do this. And with knight c6, we are in a classical position. This has been played many times. And bishop c4 introduces the Italian game. With knight f6 and d3, we see white responding kind of conservatively to this. Alright, let's try this again. So from here, we're still in book. I played d3, which is kind of a conservative way for white to play. It's possible to go d4 here. And as we see, it's also possible to do knight g5, introducing the fried liver attack. Ugh. So I played pawn to d3 and bishop c5. This is sort of a very classical way to approach the opening. Both sides are developing their pieces in sort of straightforward but aggressive manner. C3 is a way to strengthen the center slowly. We are in a game called the Giuoco Pianissimo. There's the Giuoco Piano and there's the Giuoco Pianissimo. And the Giuoco Pianissimo means the very loud piano, and the other one means the very quiet piano. Check me on that. But it has to do with a piano and how loudly it's being played. Just like c3 is such a quiet move here on move 5 for white. Just very quiet, just putting a pawn up one, But the types of games that follow are sometimes brutal and loud. So it has that irony built into the name of the opening. With d6 and then a4. A4 introduces an idea that I champion often, where white is looking to expand and build space on the queen side. Nothing more. We maybe be able, in some variations, we'll kick the bishop from where he was. And okay, so yeah, maybe something more, because if we kick the bishop from where he was in an opportune way, then we will also then follow up with a5, and that bishop will be trapped and be lost against a mere pawn, giving white an advantage in material, a 2-pawn or 2-point advantage in material. But that didn't happen. My opponent was hip to that, was wise to those tactics, and played a5, which I believe is indeed the best move there. I played bishop g5. Strong pin against the knight at f6. Why strong? Why is this pin better than some other pins that could occur after bishop g5? We want to look at the other minor pieces. The black bishop cannot retreat to e6, at least not after quite a few moves and complications, as his own pawn is blocking his retreat to cover this pin, to break the pin. And the black queen side knight, the only other knight that's not pinned has committed himself to c6, where he would more naturally defend against this pin at d7. So it's a bit of a stronger pin than can sometimes otherwise arise in these types of structures. So I played bishop to g5. And this idea that black has to kick the white bishop is a fine one. I move back to bishop h4. And castle's kingside is a way to keep things safe for black's king. You might also think in this here with black to move, it's sometimes worth it to go for g5. All right, there are variations where white gains an attack for by jettisoning knight for 2 pawns, and the pin can last, and so that ways to support that bishop to really hammer home this knight f6 pin against the queen. But we're not going to go into those too much right now. Just know that castling is a fine move here. Black has a safe king, and I said, hey, I'll have a piece of that. I'd like a safe king. So I moved to castle kingside. Bishop e6 by black here on move 9. I think this rather gives white more opportunity than black would normally want. What were the options, though? That's kind of the issue. I mean, black could try to transfer knight to e7 and then on to g6. But while the knight's stationed at e7, even if just for one move, white's going to capture on f6 and have some doubled pawns on the f file for his opponent to have to think about making worthwhile, and also to, open up lines against the black king. Stockfish suggests g5. Stockfish is right about that. g5 is the way to deal with this for black. So it's a fairly complicated best move find, and to be honest, also bishop e6 is not the end of the game. It's just I think I spied the best continuation with queen to b3. Oh, sorry, I did said there. I thought about queen to b3 right off, and I thought then my opponent would trade bishops on c4, and I didn't like my queen being quite that exposed, though she has a2 to which she can retreat, or in other situations b3. So instead of that, I said I'm going to play principle of 2 weaknesses. When I capture on e6 and black follows with f takes e6, then queen to b3 pretty much forks these 2 pawns. It's just a pawn, not the end of the game, but I'll take it over nothing. Stockfish has moves that kind of save the day, it seems. Queen e8, bishop g3, and then knight h5. Whatever it is, this is poses a question to black. One of these pawns is likely to fall. There are ways to defend against that, like bishop, queen d7. Maybe not right. Maybe not altogether. With queen d7, white can play queen takes b7, and it gets complicated after rook to b8, attacking the queen. Knight and pawn are all protected, and it's all the way along this file that the queen's retreat is made unsafe. The a7 square is covered, so the queen has to move here, a forced queen move to a6, and it just looks like darn, this is kind of cramped in terms of white's queen. She's gonna be at risk for capture by way of a trap, or an elaborate queen trap. White will have just in the nick of time, the move pawn to d4 and then retreats along the f1 a6 diagonal. But hey, that's really playing tiptoe with the prickly bender on uh, thin ice on some kind of pond. And that didn't happen, so the path here for white is more clear. Capture on e6 with check for sure. We're looking at a black queen, a black king, a black king that has a lot of air and space around him. Is currently in check. His primary defenders, as the pawns are not as numerous as they could be if there were a pawn on f7. So there's an attack coming here from white against black. Try to build up my attack and develop my last minor piece. We are out of the middle. We are out of the opening, and how do we assess this position? King safety for white. Material for white. Initiative for white. Mobility. Closer to being even because black's bishop on b6 is decent, but mobility still for white. Space for white. And the clock on move 13 in favor of black by about 10 seconds. So overall, white is doing very well here. Trading queens doesn't seem to affect it doesn't affect my evaluation that much, and Stockfish is more or less saying yeah, also that. So this tactic here, I decided to play knight takes b6. There's a possibility that my opponent will capture on h4 and I'll capture on a8. And the captures that make sense thereafter, like knight takes f3, then I would be in check. Knight takes f3 check, so g takes f3, and probably rook takes a8. And white has lost 3 pieces. Is that right? Is this one's right? White will have lost 3 minor pieces, and black will have lost 2 minor pieces and a major piece. White, by way of material, has won that battle. Now, yeah, these pawns are doubled here, but that's ancillary. That's not our primary focus. So, if that's not calculated out correctly by my opponent, then white wins the game pretty much by way of having more of a material advantage by way of winning the exchange, in addition to this one pawn that I've already built as an advantage. So that didn't happen. My opponent recaptured on b6, which is fine. This is the best move. It still doubles my opponent's pawns, which is part of the reason I played it. I think I played my bishop to safety here, which is the best move. This board might look like it's semi-closed, the way the center is positioned. But it's actually, it's semi-closed, semi-open, but it's kind of, in terms of gameplay, this board will, with a few more moves, tend more open than otherwise, as the pawns are pointing towards attacks against both kings, which tends to move towards piece trading, and therefore the long-range piece that I have as the only long-range minor piece on the board at g3, the bishop at g3, will be more valuable than otherwise. Knight d7, knight h4, looking to, like I said, move towards piece trading. And also, if he, there's a lot of variations here where white can win. This is not sharp, but a little bit tricky. My opponent goes for knight f4, and that gives me the fork, which more or less ends this is how white won the board on this game. This is mostly a little bit of cat and mouse here. I think at this point I'm a little bit of cat and mouse here. Black Knight knowing to avoid piece trades. Decide to defend the e4 pawn rather than with a pawn rather than any other defend. Not waste the whole rook on babysitting. You have the when you have the f3, the move f3 here. This also will help to stomp out a lot of black attacks or counterattacks that might arise on the f file, because the f file is now half open but still shut. White mostly looks to gather pawns and trade pieces, trade material. Caught a pawn there, and back to my outposts. So venture out, come back, and find safety. Alright, so white wants to reduce the material, so trading on f4. And that's it. This game is won with any kind of, if white has any amount of time, like any serious amount of time on his clock, this game's over. It's the end game, and white is ahead. Full rook and a pawn. So you just, next move would be like rook c1 to protect the last pawn. Maybe white will play a6 to threaten either promoting soon thereafter or a trade of pawns that is advantageous for white in hunting for more pawns, opening up the board while having two rooks against one. So this simplification is not scary. We would be worried at one part that this pawn might have an easy go of it. By the time that happens, the king has to be near enough. The e pawn will be queened, so we're not all that worried about that. Soon enough, I'm going to capture a couple pawns and just guard the file. If I have to sacrifice my rook, then I have to sacrifice my rook. See, in the time pressure, I made a few mistakes here and pushed the wrong pawn. This e pawn. This e pawn it's been sitting there, right? I can't even go back enough moves to make it anything but funny. The e pawn. This is where we want to start. 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to promotion. This should not have been a question in my calculations, and under pressure I started trading pawns along the closer towards the G file, the H file, and the F file. And it led to more difficulty in time controls. Yeah, the rook is sitting here. He's patient. He knows his job. And when it's time, he's gonna do this. Sacrifice. And the H pawn queens without problem. Alright. Black is in checkmate. Great game. Strong game. Highly accurate. So I was glad to be a part of it. I played against a strong opponent. I played strong and well myself. So I played strongly and well myself. So that's that. Thank you all for watching. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.